SARS sold body parts of executed victims. Okechukwu Nwaguma is the Executive Director, Rule of Law and Accountability Advocacy Center, an organization that promotes justice for victims of human rights violation and has handled several cases of human rights violation by the Nigerian police. He tells Punch how the disbanded SARS of the security agency has become an organized criminal entity. According to him, they killed for politicians and were available to hire to settle scores. The majority of the victims who were lucky to come out alive or their relatives alleged that Akuzu SARS harvested and sold the body parts of some people they executed. One notorious man ran a human abattoir at Akuzu SARS where he lived and willfully terminated. He denied detainees access to anybody and disregarded court orders. His activities, including his connection with politicians and notable businessmen in Anambra State, should be investigated. And speaking on how long the defunct Kuzu SARS had a reputation as an abattoir, he revealed, It was as far back as 2005 or 2006 when I went to Anambra State to do research on the patterns and prevalence of police abuse in my advocacy for police reforms that I came about specific cases. Every single person that I have interviewed who passed through Akuzu SARS spoke about the sale of human parts. I know this is something very difficult to prove, even though they all say it. And they described a particular man called Doctor, who always came in a white robe anytime somebody was shot at the back of the torture chamber. The man was coming to harvest human parts. And the question asks, how would you assess the government's reaction to #EndSARS protest, especially with the replacement of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad with the Special Weapons and Tactics Unit? He answers, I am happy that after many years of apparent docility and passivity, Nigerian youths eventually experienced a reawakening and found their voices, picked up the gauntlet and rose to the occasion. I never thought that this day of renewed consciousness would come in my generation. The youth have for many years been the main target and victims of police brutality, and they rose courageously in their numbers to demand an end to police brutality, beginning with the demand for the disbandment of the notorious SARS, a tactical intervention force that was created to fight crime but ended up committing crime and enjoying impunity. The protests were widespread, resounding and sustained. It achieved substantial success. The youth were clear in their demands, and the government made reasonable concessions. However, the public cynicism and distrust of government arising from many years of deceit, lies, and betrayal made the protest to doubt government's sincerity and seriousness to make good its many promises. Hence, the protesters persisted, insisting on seeing concrete actions before they would back down. But when it became clear that the sponsored hoodlums had infiltrated, hijacked, and derailed the good cause, it was time to tactically retreat, reassess, and continue to engage through other legitimate means. I foresaw and warned of the need to avoid the casualties that the rogue government, using the highly politicized military, was predictably determined to cause among defenseless people whose only crime was peacefully demanding good governance. The person asks, do you consider the redeployment of personnel of the defunct SARS to other units as an action that shows the will to address the real problems? The IGP has said that no member of the defunct SARS will be part of the new outfit that has been created to replace SARS. That is a good first step. The next step would be to do an audit of personnel of the disbanded SARS, identify those with cases of murder and abuse to answer and be investigated and prosecuted. Their victims are also entitled to redress, including apologies and monetary compensations. The personnel also need to go through a psychological evaluation to isolate those with mental health problems. They can't be reintegrated or redeployed into other units because they will not only continue with their crimes in their new places of postings, but also negatively influence other less brutal and corrupt officers. The Nigerian police needs to be purging, and those who are untrainable and irredeemable must be shown the way out. Of course. They also ask, what specific methods of torture were employed at the center? The most prominent was tying the two hands and legs of the victims behind their backs and hanging them from a ceiling fan with the victim's chest protruding. They would leave them for hours, flog them, administer electric shock, and use fire, hot objects, and machetes on them. Sometimes they, the SARS officers, would also insert broomsticks into their genitals for males, and for females they would use bottles. Sometimes also, when they wanted to execute without shooting them, they would use a trampoline to cover their face so that they would suffocate. So these are the usual methods that we heard from the people we interviewed. This is absolutely gruesome and inhumane. And of course, there are already hot comments. And the first one says, if you're not living on Onitsha, stop attacking this man. All he said is true for your information. There has been proof and there's been pictures as well of this person, of one random person's hands being tied. And then I think it was like concrete blocks was put on their spine. And of course, the imagery was just absolutely gruesome. I mean, these kind of pictures, you can't even put them on YouTube. It goes against the community guidelines. And this was what they were doing to people, selling their body parts for money. Somebody says, story, keep putting on more fire. Life will tire you. I don't think this person is making sense grammatically. Another person says, it's only fools that believe this kind of story. Where's your evidence? Everybody can't be foolish. Well, the thing is, you're basically making an excuse for SARS because, again, this was what they were doing behind closed doors. And a lot of family members have come out to say that their family members who have been shot were killed and their body parts were harvested as well. What the force will actually do is to take you back and forth and tell you, we're doing this, send you up to this country, send you up to this police station, send you up to this other state, and they will literally waste your time for, let's say, about 6 months, ask you for money, extort you, and then finally tell you, oh, we found your son dead, or we found her body parts, in a random place. This is absolutely inhumane and should not be going on. These men should be found and they should be prosecuted immediately. Well, put what you think about all these in the comment section below. And of course, with all these, bad elements and everything happening, the SARS protest, put what you think. Do not forget to like and subscribe. Also, do not forget to protest wherever you can on, Twitter or Instagram or any social media platform. Retweet, no matter how many followers you have, is for the algorithm. And also, we can't stop protesting. Put what you think. Do not forget to like and subscribe.